Last summer saw the start of a rebuild for Manchester United and Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, bringing in two key improvements to the defence among Daniel James. This summer it seems Manchester United are keen to rebuild the midfield and attack. So in this video I'm going to be talking about 5 realistic signings that Manchester United should sign. Hello and welcome back to Alice Talks Football. Today's video is 5 players Manchester United should sign this summer. I'm trying to keep these signings as realistic as possible, and I'm going to be talking about 5 key players, 5 key areas that Manchester United need to strengthen in, why these players would work for Manchester United, how they fit Solskjaer's tactics, these players' strengths and how they fit into Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's system. Now, I'm trying to keep it as realistic as possible, as said, so I'm trying to think of a budget that Manchester United would have, and I'm thinking if we went on a big player overhaul and sold a load of players, we could get £120 million for Paul Pogba, £25 million for Smalling, £25 million for Lingard apparently, giving us £170 million, plus £12 million for Pereira and £12 million for Phil Jones, giving us around £190 million. And each summer we have a net spend of between £70 to £120 million. So if we add £100 million onto that, we have £290 million to spend around with. And we know Manchester United and the Glazers, they're probably not going to spend £290 million. So you could say this is a little unrealistic, but we have the ability to spend £290 million, especially if we sell Paul Pogba. So that's the budget I'm going to be working with to sign 5 players. And I'm going to be starting with Wolves' 23-year-old Ruben Neves. Now, first things first, he's 23, so he can only get better. He's Premier League proven. He can play in a deep-lying defensive role. His strength is being a deep-lying playmaker, and he can replace Paul Pogba. You say, why can he replace Paul Pogba? He's much more defensive than Paul Pogba. But this season, we have played the 4-2-3-1 system, and when Paul Pogba has played, he's played as a left CDM, which is not Paul Pogba's strongest position. Paul Pogba is a playmaker, but he excels more in attacking roles or box-to-box roles where he has the freedom to make play, rather than defensive duties, where he is physical, but he does struggle at. Ruben Neves is similar to Paul Pogba in being a playmaker, but Ruben Neves is known as a deep-lying playmaker, and Ruben Neves has the ability to win the ball deep as one of his strengths, as well as long-range shooting and long-range passing is literally collecting the ball in deep areas, and he makes plenty of ball recoveries a game, and he has quite good in the air. He wins a lot of aerial duels. He wins the ball in deep areas, and one of his strengths is making defence-splitting passes out to the wingers, which would be crucial in Manchester United's 4-2-3-1 counter-attacking style play under Ole. He can win the ball back in the CDM role, and he can pass it out wide and get Rashford and James in behind, because once Rashford, James and Martial are in behind, there is no catching them. And when they get in behind and when they counter-attack teams, we know how deadly Manchester United are. When we played Man City and they allowed us to get in behind, you saw how devastating we are, and Manchester United as a team are devastating when they get in behind. Now, Fred is a good player and he is like an engine, but Fred is not a player that can get the ball from deep and whip it up to the wingers, while Pogba can. But obviously we want Pogba in the camera, but Pogba's going to go. But when he was here, he was playing the CDM role. If you get Ruben Neves in, he can win the ball in the CDM area, and he has the ability with his long-range passing, like he sometimes does to Traore, Jota and Jimenez, to pick out James, pick out Rashford, pick out Martial and get them in behind. And that is when Manchester United are at their strongest, when we're counter-attacking teams and getting them in behind. And him being known as a deep-lying playmaker, it's kind of what we need in the CDM role. We want a more of a motor engine CDM, but we also want someone that's a bit of a playmaker from deep, because we do struggle to break down teams that sit deep against us. And Ruben Neves' passing ability, similar to Pogba, will help us in teams that sit deep against us. I think Neves would be a good replacement for Paul Pogba, like a more defensive replacement for Paul Pogba, because Neves has proven in the Premier League and can play a defensive deep-lying playmaker role. He's the ball back deep, he's brilliant at ball recoveries, he can shoot from long range, as we've seen multiple times, and he has the ability to pick out attackers from very deep up the pitch, meaning we can counter attack more. And in this video, the 5 key positions I picked up are a Paul Pogba replacement, a CDM, a cam, a right wing and a striker. I'm not going to be looking at a left back and a centre back, although some people think we do need one, because I think our priorities are midfield and attack. So the first player on this list is Ruben Neves, and that is why. Now, before I get into the next player, please take 2 seconds to hit that like button and then subscribe down below to Alice Talks Football, as it means a lot. Now, the second player on this list is a player that I talk about a lot, so I'm not going to go on about him loads. That is Thomas Partey. It's a £40 million release clause, and Neves is roughly going to cost us around £60 million. So the two of them could cost around £100 million, maybe a little bit more, but Thomas Partey right now has a £40 million release clause. Now, Thomas Partey is a CDM centre mid for Atletico Madrid. He's 26, so he's in the prime of his career, but he's sort of known as a tackler CDM, kind of like Ndidi. You know, he averages just under 4 tackles a game in the Champions League this season. He kept out Salah, Firmino and Mane right now in the Champions League over 2 legs, which is one of the best attacking front threes in the world right now. We saw how good he was against Liverpool. He could do it against Premier League teams. Simone's system is kind of defensive like Ole's system, and I think Thomas Partey would give us a lot more because we don't have a CDM or even a player since Herrera that's sort of known as a tackler. I know Herrera was a box-to-box player, but he was sort of known as a tackler, and if we have a tackler in the team, it gives our other midfielders more freedom. You could go back to the 4-3-3 with Thomas Partey that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer first played when he came in. You have Thomas Partey as your one CDM, and you could have Fred and Bruno as your box-to-box ahead, and Fred would be a little bit more defensive with the box-to-boxes, giving Fred more freedom, because Fred's playing a CDM role when he's really a box-to-box, and Bruno a lot more attacking freedom, although Bruno kind of has that in the 4-2-3-1 system. But if you play the 4-3-3 system that Ole played when he first joined, we're a lot more attacking and we create a lot more chances, which will be better against teams that sit back. And Thomas Partey being an out-and-out tackler and physical, and he can deal with being the lone holding CDM, gives us the ability to do that and change up to a 4-3-3, because we have really good CDMs in Fred, Matic and McTominay, but Matic is ageing, and I do think that we need like a big tackler CDM like a Thomas Partey or an Ndidi. So the second player on this list is Thomas Partey. Now the third player on this list is the most obvious one of all the five, and that is because we need a right winger. It looks like we're going to get him. So I'm going to put in Jadon Sancho. Now, a lot of people are like, do you even need to explain this one? Not really, but Manchester United need a right winger. We've needed a right winger for ages. Jadon Sancho is young, he's English, and he wants to come to the Premier League. He fits into the kind of player Ole Gunnar Solskjaer wants. Young, quick, hungry, wants to play for Manchester United, wants to come to the Premier League. And we know that Jadon Sancho kind of wants to come to Manchester United. He flirts with the idea of coming to Manchester United. Now, Jadon Sancho was quick, so he fits Ole's counter-attacking style of play. He's young, so he's a long-term player, and he's a dribbler. Rashford and Martial are both dribblers. They can win the ball when they can just dribble it up the pitch. They're pacey, they're dribblers, they're flary players. But what Sancho adds that Martial and Rashford don't have is that Sancho is a creator. When he gets the ball, he looks up for the pass rather than goes for the shot. Rashford and Martial are great goal scorers, but they're not so good at creating. And, you know, they're brilliant players, but, you know, they don't get as many assists as they have goals. But Sancho likes to get an assist just as much as he likes to get a goal. He often gets his head up in key areas and squares it rather than takes on the shot, which is something we lack in attacking areas, which is a little bit of attacking intelligence. Now, Marcus Rashford and Anthony Martial are great players, but they are goal scorers, not creators. While with Sancho, you get a creator up front and a goal scorer, like Bruno Fernandes. You know, Bruno Fernandes is a goal scorer and a creator, and this could help us against teams like Burnley that sit back and defend against us, that we've actually struggled the most against, because now we have another player that has an eye for a pass and it could help break them down. Now, fourth player on this list, and this is one that you might have not thought of or might be surprising, but, you know, Sancho's 120 million, Partey's 40 million, that's 160 million. Then obviously Ruben Neves takes us to 220 million. We only have around 70 million pounds left, and I reckon with Norwich getting relegated, we could pick this player up for maybe around 20 million pounds. He's 23, he's an Argentinian playmaker from Norwich, and he's called Buendia. I don't know if that's 100% how you pronounce it, but I'm going to call him Buendia. And now, he's been pretty good for Norwich this season. He's got 7 assists this season. He's 23 years old in the Premier League. That's the same amount of assists as like Grealish, and I think that's more assists than Maddison this season in the worst team in the Premier League this season. Obviously, he was very good at the start of the season, and we saw that a lot. Now, he kind of goes under the radar. We hear more about Torquato, but the thing about Buendia is he's a very good chance creator. You know, he's put in 17 through balls this season, over 130 crosses, which is like 10 times Pereira for through balls, and like double Pereira for crosses. And Pereira does often take set pieces for Manchester United, showing that Buendia is a very good creator, and he's only 23, so he can get better. He's younger than Pereira, will be 23 at the start of next season. We have Bruno Fernandes, so the cam position isn't as important now as it was. We almost need a backup cam, a cam we can rotate Bruno with, or give Bruno a rest for, and Buendia's proven that he can do it in the Premier League for a weak club. He's a creator, a player that we need is a creator. You know, he's young, he can get better under Bruno Fernandes and with the guidance of Bruno Fernandes, and he's been pretty good in the Premier League. You know, he's made some brilliant passes, he has a good long range passing, and because he's a creator, again, if he might be a player that helps us break down teams, where with Lingard he's not a creator, so when Lingard plays and the team sits back, like, Lingard can't do anything. The season before, he got 12 assists and 8 goals in the Championship, and he was 20 to 21 that season, which is pretty good stats for a very young player. You know, he's proven that consistently that he can create chances, he can create goals, and to be honest, Norwich have looked good going forward this season, rather their weakness that's been in defence, and Buendia has been a key part of that, and I think he's a player that's overlooked. And you know, like Robertson from Hull, he could be one of those cheap players we pick up that gets overlooked, that could shine in a good team, especially with the guidance of Bruno Fernandes around him. And I think, you know, instead of spending 50 million on Grealish, if we want to get other players, maybe Buendia is a better, cheaper alternative, because we've got Bruno Fernandes as our main man in that role. He's also got more assists than Lingard and Pereira combined this season. Now, we have about £50 million less, and as much as I like Timo Werner, he's probably going to cost around £70 million. So I was looking at players, strikers, young, quick strikers that we kind of need, that would maybe be under £50 million. And the two ones that came up were Donny Marlin and Osimhen. I think that's how you pronounce his name. Victor Osimhen, the young Nigerian 21-year-old striker from Lille. And I've gone with him because not only does he fit the kind of player Ole Gunnar Solskjaer wants, young, hungry, you know, he's at Lille, he would want to come to Manchester United, he sees it as a step up, but he's quick, and we need a quick, young striker, because we play counter-attacking football, and our strengths is us getting in behind it, having such quick attackers that the defenders can't catch us. And Osimhen is a very fast attacker. He's a Manchester United kind of attacker. He's young, he's played 27 games in Liga in this season, and he's got 13 goals and 4 assists, I believe, which is pretty good for a 21-year-old. Yes, I know it's League One, but he's going to get better and better each year. And I think at Manchester United, with good players around and with the guidance of Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, and the one thing Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has done well, well, actually one of the many things he's done well, but one thing I really putting up for doing well is he's made massive improvements to Rashford, Martial and our attackers. And I think as a young attacker going to Manchester United, it's a very good place to improve, because even with Greenwood, I think, because Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's a striker, you can see that improvement in the striker. And I think Osimhen would grow at Manchester United. He fits our kind of system. He'd probably cost around £50 million. You know, we can rotate him with Martial. He suits the counter-attacking style. He's young, he's hungry. I feel like he'd want to come to Manchester United, and he would sort of fit in with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's system. So they're the 5 players I think Manchester United should sign: in Neves, in Buendia, in Osimhen, in Partey and in Sancho. Now, honourable mentions obviously go to players like Donny Marlin, Grealish, Bellingham, soumare, Cannavaro. Like, there's many other players I could have mentioned, but that's 5 players that I would sign. Let me know in the comment section down below 5 players that you would bring to Manchester United. Your thoughts on my 5 players? Do you think one I got a bit wrong? Let me know in the comment section down below. If you have not already, please hit that like button and then subscribe down below to Alice Talks Football, as it really means a lot. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.